Let me get to the screen share. All right. So welcome again. I'm going to present the Echo Didactic for today. And we're going to focus on the conceptualization of pretty much anything. We tend to do these for clinical work, but it can really be done in any way. So conceptualization. So really, what is it? So it's the action or process of forming a general notion or idea. Also, it can be defined as a general idea or concept of something, combining all its characteristics and particulars. So I spent 18 years in multi-systemic therapy and MST. It's an evidence-based practice that works with the whole family. There's many adaptations. The standard is working with the juvenile justice population. And so it's common practice to do fit circles. And so fit circles is an example of a way to conceptualize an issue. And so I often still today I do fit circles myself for the teams I work with personally, etc. So if you've worked alongside me, you've probably heard me say fit circle at one point or another. The family-based intensive treatment or FBIT team at Nationwide Children's Hospital use fit circles regularly. It is used, the same kind of concept is also used in business, research, and elsewhere. And so, as I said earlier, I have I use them, and I would say, dare I say now, it's more like 25 years. Um, and once something works and it's effective, you want to continue to use it. And so I really bought into the idea of a fit circle, even though I was already in MST. Really, when I was traveling from to Akron on the highway, and there was a backup for some reason, likely traffic or an accident or something like that. And two people got out of the car and like were heightened aggression and started to kind of physically engage with each other. And I thought, first of all, I thought, oh my gosh, right? Like, hope everybody's safe. But I also thought, like, I wonder what's going on there, right? And I was doing the fit in my head, like, what's contributing to this escalation in the middle of 77 North, right? And so that's when I was like, oh, I had the realization that, yeah, I've really incorporated this process into my life. And so more recently, I even do that for personally for like health, like barriers to whatever, like what's going on here? How can it be different? How can it be better? All the things. All right, so tell me more. So when we're thinking of this, when we want to conceptualize an issue, it is really that structured brainstorming exercise that we can list as many possible causes or hypotheses to something happening or occurring. Each factor is going to be seen as driving or contributing to that main issue that we're trying to conceptualize or better understand. And we really want to gather valid, reliable information from multiple perspectives to ensure those drivers are multi-determined, trauma-informed, strength-focused, and display that biopsychosocial developmental perspective. And so that's the balance that we as providers or clinicians can ensure that it meets some of those criteria. Also, we want to fall back on our clinical expertise. What does research and evidence say? And sometimes, like, what is our hypothesis? Like, oh, I've seen or felt this before. I wonder if this is part of it. And so we can consider that and then explore more with evidence, experiments, what if that is contributing or not. So what do I conceptualize? So for example, if we both focus on behavioral health, which is kind of the core focus of our ECHO project. So for example, it could be around whatever the youth has in regards to presenting problems, reasons for referral. So for example, truancy, it could be aggression, runaway elopement, etc., conflict. Um, Also, if we're looking at youth with substance use behaviors, um, we might want to look at kind of a second level or that subfit. And so when, for example, I always want to reinforce that the most direct predictor of kids using substances is oftentimes they have peers who substance use. And so if we're looking at any substance use behaviors, I want to understand what is their peer group and likely are they connected in that way. So you can start with one and kind of dive off into that secondary for more detailed understanding. We can also look at if past treatment was unsuccessful or treatment gains have not sustained. So if you get a re-referral, I really want to understand. I'm sorry, my one screen is not working. So here we go with the fly-in. Sorry about that. That is much more fun. There we go. So treatment gains haven't sustained. I want to understand why. And so that helps me understand what needs to be different maybe that second time around, or what do we need to do to sustain that progress. Another issue could be around family conflict, parent-child conflict. If that caregiver may not be completely engaged in treatment or a specific intervention. So if we're discussing an issue around school and truancy, maybe that's really the intervention they're really not bought into or engaged with that. And I want to better understand why, what's getting in the way of that. Is there something else that's more of a priority for them? What am I missing? Another issue to conceptualize or do the fit circle. If there's any loopholes in supervision and monitoring, oftentimes with the youth and families we work with, we see families with really a lack of social supports or kind of tapping into them, right? And so that's pretty common and a really important thing that we want to focus on with families. Also, there we go. So any barriers to co-parenting, couple discord, if parents are not maybe on the same page, why might that be? Of course, basic needs is always the priority or safety. If a youngster is on probation, and they are leaning more towards out-of-home placement or something else. So I'd want to understand more about that. And then lastly, when that youth is successful, why, right? And so what is keeping them on a pro-social activity, getting successful, passing grades, et cetera, et cetera. So those really even small wins, we want to blow up to understand what works so that we can ensure that those factors can continue over time. All right, and then how do we do it? So you want to think about like, what do I want to know more about? So those were some examples of issues that we might want to further understand. What am I curious about? What would help me to better understand that youth and family to best serve them? What do I need to problem solve how to prevent placement or a safety risk? You want to also identify the different domains. So for example, if we have the youth and family, I also want to look at, the school, the peers, the community, any one or thing or other life domain that's involved. Also looking at their interactions. So I'm a family therapist and the context and sequence of events, the interactional patterns are really important. So I want to understand what are all those like small pieces that lead to the problematic issue or lead to maybe a successful outcome. Again, mentioned already kind of barriers to treatment success. What have I missed? Are there engagement barriers? If there are engagement barriers, they're almost always solvable, but that would take us being aware and then, of course, attending to that and doing something differently to overcome those issues. Um, Evidence-based. So what is the evidence that tells me this is problematic? Is it something that the youth parent family is reporting of a concern that's important to them to be different? Um, am I getting multiple perspectives? So if the parents are saying kiddos struggling at school, I also want to get that feedback from school. What's their perspective? What do they say? Helps us kind of fill in all those gaps. Are there any hypotheses that I need to test with experiments to maybe fine tune what's an actual factor driver and what's not? And then lastly, provide barriers. So again, I have the most ability to impact change quickly. So, am I doing anything that prompts any barriers to success or engagement or successful treatment? Have I successfully collaborated with the family and included them? Has it been family driven? Am I working to engage and maintain communication collaboration with any other systems, etc.? All right, so first we want to use very specific detailed problem issue versus a suggestion or intervention. So for example, client one, or example one, client struggles with low self-esteem at times and does not know how to manage distressing moods and becomes dysregulated often. Versus Elijah sneaks out his bedroom window at midnight on Friday and Saturday nights after the parents go to bed to drink alcohol with his neighbor friend Jacob in his backyard. So you can see those are very, similar, right? But one has lots more specific content and details. So the more specificity we can get, the more likely we can intervene with successful interventions in that issue, right? So example number two, lack of engagement with a caregiver. Pretty common fit circle or conceptualization that we often do, and yet the second option is much more specific and we're much more able to intervene. Mom canceled the appointment and has not responded back to my texts or phone calls for 3 days. So much more specificity, what's going on. And so you want to gather as much info as possible. So really, in essence, we're asking the question why, and the contributing factors give us the because part of it. So let's give it a try. All right. All right. So when we're doing a conceptualization or thinking in fit circle terms, whatever the issue being addressed, can go in the middle. We want to include any drivers or factors in regards to culture, any youth or individual factors, family factors, peer-related factors, school-related, and community. So at least we're looking at 6 drivers, okay? So for example, if we were to take a look at family conflict, what might we understand about that? Why does it occur, right? So if we look at the youth and family domain, we can understand maybe that conflict is reinforced, and that's a way that the youth gets their needs met. So looking specifically at the youth, maybe there's a tendency to be more argumentative or impulsive. They have maybe poor problem-solving skills, and maybe the contingencies are not meaningful to them. Within the family, drivers could include trauma or a fight response, low skills to manage conflict, excuse me, or conflict is modeled with the parenting dyad. And then in the peer group, they might be reinforced by a negative peer group, or aggression is reinforced in some way. Within the community, there might be low positive resources in the area. Conflict is normalized or encouraged. And lastly, in the school, the norms are more is to be conflictual. Maybe staff ignores the conflict or it's not addressed. So this is just an example of what potential drivers could be contributing to family conflict. And I would say that, of course, each youth and family is specific and unique. I'm going to show you two fit circles, and I'd love to hear your feedback and your ideas on what are your thoughts about the two. So here's one conceptualization or fit circle. We have client is truant, parents don't care. Why else are they truant? To have fun. And then another driver could be they get picked up from school. So here's our example one compared to Juana skips chemistry class on Thursday and Friday every week for the last 3 weeks. Family and school do not communicate in general because she's, quote, a good student. Teacher does not consistently mark her absent. It's really the end of the year and she's already accepted to college. She really sees no value in staying. Juana is home when parents arrive home from work and all seems to be okay. Parents do not know she skips, so there's really no link or communication with between homeschool, no meaningful consequences or rewards for attending or skipping. And lastly, that she hangs out with her new boyfriend. He picks her up from high school after his work is done. So you can see the difference between these two fit circles, right? One is very, skip back. Just to look at it, like it's not giving us a lot of information, right? And then when we move forward with a more complete conceptualization, this gives us lots of specifics, areas to intervene around, etc. So this is what we're going to strive for. This is what we want that conceptualization to look like. So we do it, and then what do, right? All right, so after we conceptualize, we move to the prioritization stage. So thinking, what would give me the most bang for my buck if I target it for change now? What's important to the family? So choice and voice. What does research tell me to target? What do we know about XYZ? Are there any practical barriers that need to be managed first? So thinking of maybe it's basic needs, or if there does need to be a school meeting and family doesn't have transportation. And then are there any skills that we're missing? So those priority factors are really going to be your focused interventions for change. And we want to continue and evaluate and continue that process until we can make impact change, right? So this is our fit circle that we had done before. So Juana skipping chem class. So you can see here again the drivers that we've already listed. All right, and so when we go to the prioritization, where are we going to get the most bang for our buck? What do we intervene around prioritizing first? So you can see here that these three are highlighted, let's say, right? And so the priorities could be around the teacher marking her absent, informing the parents daily, talking with Juana after school, and some type of reward or incentive based on that behavior. So when we fine tune the interventions from the priority drivers, it could look like this. These are the ones we prioritized. All right, interventions targeted for change. Chem teacher, marks are absent, informs parents, family meeting. So we're going to increase that family homeschool link, more frequent ongoing communication and collaboration. Having some type of meaningful incentive every day. Because the long term of like going to college or, right, that has passed, but is there something more short term? We also want to assess for Is there any need for support for Juana at school? Does she need to check in with somebody? Are there any other factors that are getting in the way of her staying all day? Is there any bullying issues like you want to look for any other things that pop up? Does she need refusal skills for boyfriend? So boyfriend's still going to show up. How is she going to manage that interaction, right? And then also we could consider, or the family could consider including the boyfriend to link to the college goal and time together. So for example, if it's important for her to be with her boyfriend, what have you, and parents are accepting of that and supportive, is there another time that they could spend time together that is maybe more monitored and things like that? All right. So another example, if we look at treatment success. So Betty and family treatment success, what contributed to that? Why did that happen? So there were resiliency plans in place, pro-social peers and activities, family meals and meetings that increased family cohesion. There's a positive social support network. Community ties and resources are engaged. And then we have the school piece, a strong homeschool link. So just an example of a very basic conceptualization using the fit circle process of success. And of course, you can see here that these can be very much more specified too. So we love our system of care echo. So why is it effective? I wonder why. So teams that come to us and share cases, they're really on the front lines doing the hard work to serve sometimes the most challenging issues in families in need across the state. Our hub experts are the best, very knowledgeable, always sharing great information, content, and recommendations. Our learning community shows up, shares in this learning dialogue every other week now. The spokes are actually the providers in the communities doing the work, adding their knowledge and guidance and resources. Didactic topics are interesting for the population we serve. I mean, I think this is interesting, but I always enjoy like some of the just fascinating didactics that we have. Like I learn from them and always take new knowledge away. So Kara and Jamie always have a great icebreaker each week. And valuable recommendations are given to our most challenging cases. I'm always every time impressed by the support and recommendations that are provided to each team, and they're always specified to the team and then that youth and families needs. And lastly, we do have an evaluation process. So sending out evaluations, always appreciate the feedback that folks give so that we can continue to improve this process for everybody. And so lastly, just want you to think about what might your conceptualization or fit circle be on. Since we're, January, a new year, what is something that you would like to improve upon or make even better? And we can also use this in our work with youth and families as well. Any issue that's challenging, struggling, or successful, and why that is, so that we can capture that success and continue to reinforce that sustainability over time. And that is it. Thank you so much. Any questions for anybody?